Hey guys, this is Bao, and welcome to another chess video. Today we're going to do a bit more tactics training today. And yeah, let's just see how that goes. I've been playing a lot of games recently, so although I feel like it's a lot of fun getting to kind of test my skills, it's definitely been kind of distracting from improving. Although I feel like I'm gaining experience, I hesitate to say that it's all beneficial, since you end up not really learning too much if you don't analyze. And so I'm thinking maybe in the future I will maybe do some standard games, but I might actually start up that series from before for game analysis, because I feel like I haven't been doing a very good job analyzing as best as I can. Alright, first off, this board is definitely not big enough. Let's just make it gigantic. There we go. Alright, that should really help a lot of screens, I hope. And yeah, let's get started. It's been a while since I've actually kind of used my process to really look at the game from an analytical perspective. And I feel like the best way for a newbie player like myself to improve is to focus on those kind of things. So let's take a look at what we have here. Let's start with the pawn count. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns. I have 6 pawns as well. Interestingly enough, our pawn structures are vertically mirrored. They are just exactly the same. It looks like we have some double pawns here for both of us. All of our pawns are still on our second flank, respectively. And it looks like this is a game that's going to focus mainly on our pieces and instead of the pawns. So let's look at some major pieces. Black's rook, one of Black's rooks, his A rook, is still kind of cubbied back on the first rank. I don't think he's going to get to see a lot of play for a while. His other rook, now on the G file, is kind of doing work, waiting for some kind of potential, I guess, but hard to say. He's doing a pretty good line of defending at least these 2 pawns over on his second flank, or what would be the 7th rank universally. Let's see here. My rooks, I have a rook on my first rank as well. He's on the middle of the board though, so I'm pretty happy looking at this E file here. Potentially, if I move my knight somewhere, discovered attack on the bishop on E5 looks possible. Problem is, it's defended by that pawn on F6. So nothing doing, not just yet. My other rook has a potential of a discovered attack after this bishop moves on the 5th rank there, so that's pretty cool. And looking at the minor pieces now, I like that my knight is in the center here, and it looks like he has good, decent position, and it's good that he's backed up by this pawn on F3 here, so that's good. Meanwhile, his bishop is in a fairly good place too, minus the part where he's pinned because of this rook. But besides that, his diagonals are actually very good. Although, I mean, he can take this pawn. He can't take this pawn, so he can't go here. So honestly, his diagonal power is like this, but that's still a good control of the middle that he has. That's a good place to be. So let's kind of think this through. What can we do? Nothing really came to mind while I was looking through the pieces, but that doesn't mean that there isn't necessarily any good lines. For instance, what if we move the E1 rook to D1? How does that do? Well, I'll be putting him in check there. He can't go to these two spots. Oops, wrong one. Is that shift? So yeah, he wouldn't be able to go to these two spots. All of this file would be taken over. So that would mean he would have to go either here, here, or here. Alright, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then after that, what happens? Well, one of the cool things is once he's off this row, he's relocated to this space here. So that would be a cool thing to kind of put him into a smaller area. He's either going to have to go here or here. So once he has done that, hard to say, hard to say. What's a good move? After that, my rook would be here. Yeah, I don't see a lot of strong possibilities. Check, he moves down there. Or if he's all the way up here, I can't move my rook up because then his pawn would take. If he's here, perhaps we can move the knight somewhere to check him again. Can't go there. That wouldn't be helpful. That's not helpful. No, it doesn't feel like I'd have very good chances. So I don't think the rook move from E1 to D1 is the right idea. If that's the case, maybe perhaps this puzzle or this tactic training isn't really about mating him as much as it is about finding a good trade for some pieces. But what? First one I see is that he's in check, so he's gonna have to move. He could move there. I mean, he has all of these spaces to move to. Only spot he can't go is where the knight used to be because of this rook. So let's just carefully look this out. If he moves here, I've gained a pawn. That's about it. That's pretty weak. It's a pretty weak puzzle, man. I have to move the rook again. If he moves here, it's kind of problematic for me. Could always come back. I could go over here. Yeah, I don't see, I mean, I could take another piece. That'd be cool. Boy, this sure is a hard puzzle. What if I move here? I could check him here. These two spaces would be taken. If he moves there, I could check him again. This is a difficult one. I don't really understand what I'm supposed to do. There isn't a great game. I mean, I'm happy to take pawns, but I feel like since this is a training puzzle, it's not just about pawns. It never feels like that is the case. But I mean, I see, you know, me taking here, king going over here, taking another piece there. And if the king goes over here, no, he can't go there. I don't know. I don't think this is gonna be the right answer. But I don't want to hold you guys up for too long. I mean, yeah. I guess that was the right answer. Oh. Well, he done fucked up. He done fucked up. I was thinking he could move over here. If one of my pieces decide to take this, he can at least trade. And then check, I guess. Move out, check, move out. I don't know. Feel like he done fucked up. So the question is, which way do I take? Well, that's hard. That's hard. I guess it's better to bring him into the game than out. Yeah, let's actually go through the analysis of that because that doesn't seem quite right. That doesn't seem like the right move. Why can't I move anything? What the dick? What's going on? Okay, good. I can move. That was weird. So I was thinking something like this. Right? Okay, there we go. That seems at least like a decent trade. Then he has potential there. I guess, what if this happens? Well, he can't go any of these, so he has to go over there. I see. Well, that's not too bad, actually. Yeah, I don't see why he didn't move closer to the knight. Am I just missing something? This is checkmate, is that why? This isn't checkmate, though. This is just stalemate. I mean, I guess he'd bring this guy up. Yeah, I don't At worst, it's a draw. Maybe I'm missing something. Let's go back all the way. Delete all of this. Yeah, clear all of that. And turn on the computer analysis. What say you, Mr. Computer? Show us what's going on. So yeah, that's great. Why is that? What happens if I do this? What is this? This seems like a horrible move. What the hell? Why would you just take? Alright, let's just play by the computer's rules and see what's going on. Okay. What in the world? I don't think maybe the computer really understood what was going on in the beginning. So let's try this again. And the computer still suggests moving over there. Okay. I honestly thought when I turned on the computer analysis, they were gonna say, oh, there's the Maiden 2 or something. But this is just bad play on Black's part right now. He's not trying to trade, he's just losing things. It's kind of depressing to watch, actually. Uh-huh. Okay. What in great God's name is going on here? This analysis, I don't understand it. I'm too low level to understand these kind of things. I feel like the line that I played was pretty straightforward. Does it not seem like the right thing to do for Black? Maybe draw him in a little bit more first. Or actually, let's just do this. What happens then? What happens if I do this? Well, shit goggles, right? He could move out of the way. Could do that. Okay. So I have to close off that line. Okay. But he can just take. Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't look that bad for Black right now. I mean, he's not in a great position, but it's gonna take a lot to... Especially when you bring in something like this. Right? Okay. Yeah, why not that? That's also a good move. So then he has to open the line. And honestly, if the pawn comes up, then the rooks can't defend each other. So this doesn't seem like a bad place. So going this way... Yeah, going that way seems like a really bad idea, losing 2 pieces. Anyway, I guess I'm not good enough to really understand why that happened. But I guess I'll just accept that as happening. A win is a win, I guess. Well, let's move on to the next tactic, or the puzzle. I should call them puzzles, because that's the correct terminology for them. Okay, well, I guess I meant to tell you guys before we started, my puzzle practice, tactics training, has been rather mild, wins and losses. There have been a couple of dips, and always, since we've already done the 3 in a row, what I'll try to do today is get 5 in a row, while not just being hyper analytical, but also sticking to my guns and using the correct checklist process that I've kind of committed myself to. So we're black this time. Let's look at the pawns. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, 6 white pawns. Not much to say about their structure. They're all just rearing to go. Nothing's really happened with their structure. On my side, however, I have 4 pawns. I've lost a couple in the battle here in the middle, I guess. And that's a nice structure for the king to be in, but looks like the king isn't even in there. Funnily enough, it looks like my king is in the middle. It looks like my bishop is pinned as well. This is not really a great place for me, it seems like. That's quite funny. And these pawns are isolated, so I don't really expect a lot from them at all. Alright, well, can't rely on the pawns, and his pawns are still back here. One of them's playing pawn shield for this king, so that's very strong. It's a good place to be. While on the other side, these row of pawns is kind of keeping his rook in a hard spot right now. That's kind of shitty, I guess. But it's only going to take him 1 turn to get out. Start compromising my position of my queen on e6. Or e5, actually. So that's... Oh, I'm sorry. d4 is what I meant to say. I forgot I was black. You gotta rotate that board. So yeah, that would be a good move for him, I think. Well, since we're talking about rooks anyway, let's start talking about major pieces. Looks like his rook on the e-file, that's strong, pinning down my bishop there. I gotta be very careful about actually using the left click before I start on the game. Yeah. Or I mean start on the puzzle. And it looks like his other rook is a little out of place right now, but it's only going to take him 1 turn, like I said, to start controlling this d-file, and that's awesome. Meanwhile, on the other hand, my rook is not doing well on the a-file. I can't even compete on the d-file, even if I wanted to, because of this beautiful bishop that he has in place. On the other hand, this other rook has a straight x-rayed path right to his king, especially with this bishop defending on f2 or g2 there. It's going to be a mighty tasty treat, and I think that's probably where the tactic's going to go. Furthermore, I mean, if I wasn't looking to directly attack him, which I don't know why that wouldn't happen, but if I wasn't, then another good attack would be something like this, kind of putting pressure on the queen, and she'd have to back out, hopefully giving me a little room to breathe so that I can move under this pawn. But honestly, if I had my choice, I would have kind of castled onto the queen side there, I guess. That's not the queen side. That can't be the queen side. Is that the queen side? That is a queen side, okay. Yeah. I would have castled on the queen side if possible. But it looks like that's nothing doing since this bishop's there. Moving on to the queens. This girl has a very good kind of attack spot here on this diagonal. What diagonal is that? That's HGF. So that's the F8 to the 876, the H6. So H6 to F8 diagonal. That's good. And then look at this diagonal that she has here from H6 all the way to C1. That's great control, potentially attacking this knight if this bishop moves. This bishop can't move though. Oh, he can take that for... Oh, never mind. I was going to say he could take that for free, but let's look at the other queen now. This queen's defending the bishop here. Without this queen, this bishop would already be dead. She's in the middle. She's got good control. But as the one of the most expensive units on this board right now, that just means if any other unit puts pressure on, she's gonna have to move, which is kind of shitty, but that's just how the world works, right? So that's that looks like the puzzle, or at least the major pieces. I'm sorry, I forgot the minor pieces. Minor pieces wise, I seem to be doing a bit better. I have both of my bishops, whereas he only seems to have one of his bishops. That's the dark square bishop, which is good and bad. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. And the diagonals that this bishop controls aren't too bad. It's definitely keeping my rook in check, so it's working hard. It's working hard. The question would be, if my rook comes out, which way would this bishop want to move? And I think the best route would be going here. Still controlling this square, not being able, stopping this rook from going all the way over onto the E file. So that would be good. And let's look at the knights. Or I'm sorry, let's finish the bishops first. My dark squared bishop, on the other hand, is the only thing keeping me from getting checked. So he's pinned here. So we can't even start discussing his potential until we move this king somewhere out of reach. But as you can see, the only potential place he can move is over here onto the second rank. And then it's only a matter of time before something else comes in to really start harassing me. You know what I'm saying? King moves over here, rook comes here. King has to move, queen has to move somewhere at this point. Might as well take. Yeah, it's an alright trade, but he's got a queen. I don't have a queen. It's going to be a very, very harsh reality for me at that point. So moving my king there only forces me to sacrifice a queen. So that's nothing doing. That's nothing doing. Alright. So that's my black squared bishop. What's my white squared bishop doing? White squared bishop is in a real good place, working in coordination with this rook here. I'm eyeing the center. I think this is where the tactic is going, because once we move here, king is going to have to move somewhere here or here, and that's when we can bring in this queen. Whichever way it is, it's just a beautiful place to bring her. I mean, we can get into the lines after we finish the knights, but I definitely see some very strong potential for some kind of mating action. So I'm pretty excited about that. So let's get moving and look at the knight areas. This is my knight's kind of area right now. Has wonderful defensive control of this area, helping out a lot of different pieces that need help. Excuse me. And covering this spot. which is actually doubly protected. So if the rook does come down, being like, I wanna fight, bishop can take, rook can take, knight can take, whatever. Did I say rook can take? No, I meant knight can take. So yeah, this is actually a very contested point. And what is this point? Well, if it is an e4, of course. Good old e4, always under contention. That's cool, that's cool. And his knight, on the other hand, is actually on the rotationally, oops, that's the wrong squares. It's on the rotationally exact opposite point. And that's funny, because they share the same square front right here. And you can understand why now most people decide to put their knights out in such a fashion. Because I'm going to use blue for this, but if these two knights were here, their points would intersect right in the center as well, the center square. And that's why those knights, getting those knights out in the beginning is such a highly touted thing, generally for beginners or in just basic principles of development, because bringing your knights out means having a strong way of controlling the center without having to be in direct line of fire by the other minor and major pieces. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Alright, that's enough. That's way too many lines. So, although these knights are in decent positions, the problem is this. The problem is that, or actually the problem for the white knight is that he has a decent defensive position over here on the queen's side for white, but the problem is there's nothing to defend. All of the battle is on the king's side. So this is probably the biggest mistake right now. That's gonna hurt him. That's how he loses. I mean, that's a problem with his bishop over here too. Bishop's great at controlling this rook here, but that's a one-for-one kind of pinned system, right? As soon as this bishop moves, the rook moves, but as long as the bishop's there, rook can't move. So both of these pieces, the rook not by choice, against its choice, but the bishop by choice, are in a position that aren't incredibly favorable. Okay, well, we've already started on this line, so let's see what happens. Rook g8 to rook g2 takes the pawn, check. And let's first look at the line where the king goes to h1, in which case the wrong move would be rook to h2, because although it is a discovered check by the bishop, king just takes, and he's gotten a rook for his tasty treat. So check, move. So the other route would be to either rook goes here, rook goes there, rook goes there. Rook going to g1 is the same kind of thing, tasty treat. Not the way to go. So which way can rook go? Rook can go either onto g3, or he can go onto f2. So let's take a pause and think about this. If he goes to g3, rook would be controlling these squares, and the king could only potentially go here. If rook on f2, he would control these squares, and the rook could only go back here. Either way, next move would be queen to the corner there on f2. Ah, that's why the rook can't go to f2. Because if rook goes to f2, we can't checkmate after that. Although the king would be pinned for a second, the problem is the queen has to come in to finish the job. So the game goes like this. Rook takes, check. King goes over to the h1 square. Rook comes back. Discovered attack from bishop on f3. king has to come back this way, or actually can't come back this way. King has to come down to h2 there. Queen comes in. Another check. King can't go back up. King can't go down. King can't go this way. King can't take rook because of queen. That's checkmate. Alright. So that's pretty... Oh, shit. Well, I'm an idiot. I did this line. I did the line where the king goes into this corner, but I forgot to take a look at the other one. But the other one is just easier. That's checkmate. I had already done the work on king going onto f1 there, but I hadn't expected the computer to make it so much easier for me. Either way, it would have been fun. I'll show you what the other line looks like, which is just as good. It's just as delicious of a check there. So king goes there, discovered attack. Oh, that's checkmate. Oh, I'm sorry. All this time I read that line as if this pawn wasn't there, but that doesn't make any sense. This pawn, oh man, this is another one of those times when I've forgotten about a pawn. And honestly, if this hadn't been a discovered attack, pawn could have just taken. That would have been bad as well. But yeah, this would have been checkmate as well. So either way was checkmate. Oh boy, how embarrassing though to forget about this pawn. Alright, well, either way, it was a lot quicker than I expected. So let's just reiterate what happened here. And that was quite a simple puzzle. So pretty clear cut. I think anybody can really understand it. Pretty low rating one. Let's move on. Alright, once again, we're on the black side. And starting with their pawns, they have 6 pawns. Decent formation here. Looks like the start of the game, really. There's been some tit for tat in the middle. And it looks like we've lost. Oh, we've only lost a knight, so that's not too bad. But our position looks heavily disarrayed. It does not look very coordinated. So let's see what kind of potential we have. Okay. So his pawns on the king's side haven't really started doing anything yet, while his pawns on the queen's side are slightly developed, I guess. But with how much open space there is, I feel like development of the minor pieces is probably more important to him at this point. It is interesting, however, to see one of his pawns, a very, very lonely pawn over here on the e-file, quite far away from its home on e5. I feel like that's an interesting point of this board here. But without any guards on any sides and it being my turn, I feel like I can just start putting a lot of pressure on this pawn. And we'd have to see what happens after that. But moving on. Let's see now. We've looked at the pawns. Let's start with the major pieces, and we'll start with the rooks because it seems easy. My rook in the H file can't do anything. Same for him. His rook on the A file can't do anything. And my A8 rook is the only one that has any potential of getting to an open file in at least one move. And this isn't a very exciting file ever either. He can't go there, he can't go there, he can't go there. So that means the rook at best can go here to the 6th rank. And since my pawns have been developed in such a way, the rook wouldn't have very much to do on the 6th rank at all. So this rook, although it looks like it has potential for not an open file, but for half an open file, it really doesn't really matter at this point. This rook can't really be used for anything worthy. Maybe if we see like pawn, my d pawn, up to d7, rook up to, or I mean d6, rook to a7, then maybe he can get into the game with like a move to the e file or the d file. But for now, it's going to take a little bit of time, just like all of our other rooks, before he can get into play. Alright, so where are the queens then? His queen's back at home, kind of defensive. Problem is, my queen, his queen is behind his king, which is potentially kind of a dangerous place to be. Especially when I see things like this, right? With a pinned attack. This doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a queen being behind him. But generally, that's not a position you want, especially when you move the queen, my queen, over here, using his king as some kind of pin. And if I feel like my position is better, hell yeah. If my material's better, oh yeah, I'd trade the queens out. That'd be no problem. Problem is, for me, he has 2 minor pieces compared to my 1. He has 2 knights, where I only have 1. So let's get into the minor pieces here. The difference between his 2 knights and my knight, however, is that I am actually on the board at this point. Not to mention in a beautiful square, that beautiful contested e4 square. This is the best square in the game. Just kidding. It's a pretty decent square though. Any of these squares are pretty good, I would say. And these squares outside of that center square, pretty decent as well. I think it's what Yasser Sarawan calls the sweet spot. But yeah, so although he has 2 knights, my knight is fully developed, taking immense control of the center space right now. Whereas his knights, one of his knights is going to end up kind of a little either on the sides, having to make another move before he gets into a clearly decent position, or he's gonna block some development progress on that bishop, which would be a big no-no as well, kind of making it claustrophobic. And not only that, if you move there, taking one of the potential squares that the king can move to for escape. So that's another big no-no. So that's not good. Although I guess looking at this now, my knight does control that square, so either way, maybe just move it. And then his other knight as well, of course, isn't in a very good place. Although I guess looking at it now, this f3 square isn't too bad. Putting a bit of pressure on my queen there, that's not bad. That's not bad. But it's not the best either. And this is the only move he can make. Oh, actually, he can go this way. But again, he'd be stuck on the rim, on the edge there. And it's not a very highly contested area, so I wouldn't be too worried. And then the bishops now, looking here, I would have to say out of his pieces, the best developed piece so far is his bishop. Although the problem is that a lot of the diagonals have been kind of cut off from him. But this diagonal here is the second longest diagonal, and it's not a bad one to have, you know? Especially when you're talking about controlling the f7 pawn square. I mean, that's exactly what you want. If this was White's turn, first move I'd make is queen over. I would say generally I would want to be developing, getting things out on the board, but when I see something like this is just too precious, right? I mean, maybe I'd take a couple of moves to develop to get to that point. You know, something like knight over here, forcing the queen to move. but that would give him a chance to put defense on to this weak square. But honestly, I don't have enough time to get to this square without letting him know about the plan, really. It would be really silly if I went here and the only thing that he did was move up there. Hehehe. But yeah. Okay. His other bishop is still hasn't moved from its original starting point, but this diagonal is very sweet. It's a long diagonal, long open diagonal, so that's power there. That's good. That's good that at least, even from home, this bishop is doing some work. On the other hand, my light square bishop doesn't have much to talk about, although with a pawn move, he could potentially have a very long diagonal to work from as well. One of the, what is it? The third longest diagonal. One of the third longest diagonals in the game. Right? One of these. So that's cool. And here we go. Here's this, my bishop from home, again controlling one of those nice long third diagonals. So that's cool. But again, they haven't been developed. Rooks aren't touching. This is not the best game that has happened so far. A lot of stuff happened here. It's very interesting, very interesting. Well, so let's start looking at the lines. Potential line I see here, knight over here, but of course because of this pawn with nothing happening after that, it's pretty weak, pretty weak. I wouldn't really go for it. Next best line I see here is the queen moving up here. So let's see what happens. Queen moves onto the f2 square. Queen takes these diagonals. Queen takes this line, meaning that the king has only one place he can move. Over here. Okay. That's neat. What happens after that? What happens after that? So king's gonna move there. And then what? And then what? And then what happens? And then I take a pawn and we call it good. No, that seems pretty silly. I feel like this is the right line. The question is, where does it go from here? King moves over there. From here, what are my potential moves for my knight? Because he's in trouble. Knight could move over here. And now, let's look at the lines again. King would be in a pretty difficult position, I guess. This is a hard one to kind of do image training for, but let's try to do it without the arrows and see what happens, alright? Queen moves up here. Queen now controls white's second rank, which incidentally is a universal second rank. Queen is also defended by knight. Queen also controls this diagonal here, as well as this diagonal. Which two diagonals are those? That's the E1 to the H4 diagonal there, and also the G1 to the A7 diagonal. Alright. So from there, king is forced over to D3, it looks like. Putting pressure on the knight at this point, who will move over, jump over to the C5, yeah, the C5 square, at which point he will be putting pressure on that D3 as well as E4 square. At which point the king can't move here, can't move anywhere on the second rank because it's controlled by the queen, can't move on to this diagonal, the f2 a7 diagonal, because that's also controlled by the queen. Oops, I promised not to use the lines. And from here, actually he can't go down either to, he can't go down to d4 for the same reason, that square being partially part of this f2 to a7 diagonal. So I guess that looks like that's the line. However, let's be doubly sure that we haven't missed any kind of weird pawn plays. If I move here, is there any pawn play that gets in my way? No. And if I move here, are there any pawns in my way? No. Okay. Alright. Okay. Oh. I thought of... Okay. Well, let's play it first and see. Okay, that was it. For a second, I thought there might be a way for him to interfere with the check, but I was mistaking the check from my queen to the king, which doesn't exist anymore. This is the check that needs to be blocked, and there's no way of blocking it. So that worked out well. Alright, I think that's 3 in a row now. That's good. 2 more to go. Ooh, excuse me. Things are looking up. Things are looking up. Okay, so we're black again. I'm kinda wondering why all of these puzzles have been on the black side, but whatever. It's good practice for me, especially in learning the coordinates better. I'm so used to kind of looking at the board from the white side, you know, this being A1 and whatnot. So this is, oh dear lord, I accidentally opened the developer tools. Anyway, so yeah, it's good to look at it from the other side, I guess. So let's start with the pawns. Wow, what a structure white has, huh? Black already has a bishop behind the pawns. That's weird. And a double pawn here. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So that's 6 on his side. And looks like I have 7 on my side. Looks like both of us are having to deal with some double pawns here. That's never good. Looks like these are also isolated from any kind of friends. He has some isolated pawns here as well. That's pretty sad. Thankfully, I have 2 files of isolated pawns. Some strong open files for both of us to use. But then I have 4 pawns altogether. And these guys aren't doubled, so hip hip hooray. In such a situation as this, when you have double pawns, one of the best ways to deal with it is to let them take first. Because if they take and you take, now they've lost 2 pawns. Because it would be stuck in the same exact situation. Whereas now you have 2 pawns that would be able to move up. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus! No! Oh no, I did it again, guys. I'm never going to get 5 in a row if I keep doing this. I might have to do 5 in a row just outside of a video, because I seem to just keep on dicking myself over. But as I was saying, after we trade pawns, leaving his double pawns on the E file stuck, then we could move our 2 pawns on the H file and G file, take care of this pawn, and get promoted. Holy dicks. Alright, well, I guess we'll just keep on moving on. That's the best we can do. Alright, so the pawn structures we've talked about. We've talked about some of these really nice open files that are in this game. So let's start talking about major pieces that can use these files. Both of these rooks here have a great chance of using these files. Problem is, this is a great file for my own rook because my rooks are connected, where the problem is for him, this bishop is in the way. So if his rook comes out and my rook comes out as well, he's gonna have to back out of there, because if he doesn't, then I could just easily take. Thankfully, he has some defense there, and honestly, the best route to go would be to move his bishop up, connecting his rooks, having another defender, and the rook doesn't want to trade rook for bishop, so that would never happen. But yeah, for now, this file is more to my benefit than it is for him, so that's cool. That's cool. Of course, this file, we don't really need to talk about it. His king is on this open file, so that means this rook is ready and willing for the game. That's great. That would be an awesome place to be. And not only that, if you check this out, rook comes here, bishop already has this diagonal here. Let's see what this diagonal is. The d1 to the h meow 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 meow. It's 5 diagonal. d1 h5 diagonal. So that means that the only place that the king could go at this point would be over here to try and escape. At which point, I would be a crazy person and just take here. And then his queen would come. And then I would take. And then his king would take. And then I would lose the tactics training puzzle. Because that's obviously not the right way. But this is still, if I was in a game and I didn't have much time to think, this would probably be the first check I would do. Maybe not. It's a pretty good check. It would definitely scare him. Okay, well, those are the rooks. Oh, we didn't finish yet. His rook. This is a half open file, and it's not a bad file, really. As we've seen with the tactic from one of the puzzles that we solved, retry this puzzle. As we saw from one of the puzzles that we solved, this can be a very potentially great thing, especially if you have, maybe you move the pawn up, but really for check, you definitely need one of the dark squared bishop here to play this game with you here. If this file was open, this file here, the sweet old A1 to H8 file, let's say the bishop's over here or something, rook comes in, check, move back, then we move the rook back to G6 there, and that would be checkmate. So that'd be great, but that's not the puzzle here, and that's on the other side, so we don't have to really worry. And because he doesn't have this bishop on the open file, nothing to worry about, we're safe and sound. Something I would maybe think about doing would be at some point, actually I just leave it as is, because even if let's say he does put his pawn onto f6 there, well, that could get problematic, but not really. Let's say he takes, then I can just move. There's not much that can be done after that anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's move on. Let's look at the queens now. My queen is on the G4 square, and it's kind of looking like the line is going to go this way, where I attack in this attractive position, and that looks like instant checkmate, actually. Yeah, I guess so. All of the second rank is compromised for the king. King can't go back up to d1 because of the bishop. As we said, the d1 to the h5 diagonal. This is 5, right? I'm not crazy. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. The h5 diagonal. And then he can't go to this little bitty place over here on the d3 because of this random pawn. Thank goodness for double pawns, I guess, right? Yeah, he can't go to d3 because of this weird pawn on c4. So that looks like the puzzle, but let's finish our analysis of the board before we call it a day. And I think with me losing this flubbing, with me flubbing this puzzle, with my left click shenanigans again, God damn it. This will probably be the last puzzle of the day. But let's continue on for a second. Let's look at his queen. His queen's on the C2 square here. And it looks like his queen isn't in a very good place. Again, we have this problem, whereas we've talked about, and this is the problem exactly in this tactic, where the queen is behind the king compared to the other queen. And it leads into these situations where the king has to move, putting his queen into jeopardy. And although it's manly in real life to be in front of, you know, the one you care about from other dangers, in this case, you have to be smart and let the stronger person take control. Man, this is the 2016. Anyway, so this is not a good place for the queen. And incidentally, she's not really guarding much anyway. She can't even go into this square because of this pawn, which is really interesting. A great place for her maybe would be to move her queen over here, maybe looking at some attacks, but with the double rooks here on the first flank for black, or the 8th universal flank, this is nothing doing. It's not a good place to be. Alright, so finally let's look at the minor pieces, and there aren't a lot of minor pieces to look at, and we've already looked at my bishop, and he's in a great position, somehow behind this little squadron of pawns, and that's where the bishop, just like I think the rook, really flourishes when they don't have to worry about any pawns. You know, they can really enforce their power and just go for great trades, whereas his bishop, similar to his queen, isn't in a very good place right now. And that's all I have to say. He doesn't even have any kind of power towards stopping me from doing this. Checkmate. So that's it. That would have been number 4. Would have been number 5, because I would shit a brick. No, that's number 4. Okay. Oh, well, guys. There we go again. 3 in a row, and then I flub it with some misclicks. That's sad and horrible, but that's how life is. You get pretty tired, you start making mistakes. Same in chess, same in life. That's why it's always important to pace yourself and be careful about what you're doing. Just don't haphazardly click everywhere like a goddamn crazy person. Well, before we leave, I want to do some shout outs. This is the end of the video, so if you guys are done with me, then you can leave, but stick around if you want to hear the shoutouts. Thanks to Lee Chess. If you haven't played chess but are interested and you want to play online, Lee Chess is a great place to start. Real-time games for all sorts of players, from the lowest to the highest ratings. You can set filters for different game variants, time controls, all sorts of things. It's good stuff. You can also play correspondence chess with friends. Games that take 2-3 days worth of time. That means each of you have one, you can play with a friend on the East Coast when you're on the West Coast, or in Europe when you're in Asia, or, whichever way the games connect. I'm playing one right now with a friend, actually. We've been playing this game for a while. Not only that, as you've seen tonight, I've been using Lee Chess for tactics training, and they have close to 10,000 different puzzles now. We're getting really close. Lee Chess is at, I think, not 10,000, I'm sorry, 100,000? Let's go to the community forums. I saw the post there. General chess discussion. 100,000. We're almost becoming the biggest. I keep saying we. I have nothing to do with this. They are becoming one of the biggest tactics training puzzle databases. So that's really cool. That's a very cool thing. Not only that, they have some really cool things like a Yeah, okay. A coordinates trainer, which I'll show you, kind of plays with the idea of clicking on the correct coordinates, which, as you can see, I'm awful at. So there's something like this as well. And I really want to finish this now. B3, B3, E6, E6, F3, F3, B2, B2, G5, G5. I don't know why I have to repeat it like that, but apparently it's working really well. But yeah, you're able to track your stats and see how well you're doing. Going, practicing coordinates from both sides, white or black, so that's cool. Oops. And then, of course, there's chess basics. If you never learned the game, they have a wonderful list of tutorials that you can follow along to get better at chess. Oop, I did it again. And finally, they have studies where you can look for any sort of interesting things, like, let's say, Ruy Lopez opening. You can look at what people have said about openings. This is my own study, so let's not click that one. But let's check out some other people's. Oh well, let's check out my study. Yeah, where you can write comments, detailed comments, different variation comments. This chapter, you can have different chapters. This second chapter is just basic Ruy Lopez opening, with comments about why it's played in such a manner and how the benefits of it and the weaknesses. And then this one gets into a variation, and you can also use the tools for saving specific lines and squares and things like that. So studies are very cool, very worth your time if you're a beginning player and you want to analyze your games. And of course, Lichess helps connect you as a new player with master level players. Hey, it's John. Yay. But yeah, very cool. A lot of these guys are very dedicated and very good at playing. FIDE 2383. That's, oh my goodness, yeah. These guys are high level players and they will not steer you wrong. And a lot of these guys are very very patient, very wonderful people. And of course, if you ever want to watch games, Lichess TV, current games, video library, there's just a lot of stuff. There is just so much stuff that even their 404 page is a stuff. Let me show you the 404 page. This is their 404 page. It's a chess video game. Like, that's how amazing this site is. This site is just dedicated to chess in all of its glorious form. Anyway, so yeah, thank you to the creators of Lichess for just doing this for free. And if you're a Lichess user and you love what they do, please think about donating to them or becoming a monthly sponsor, because it's totally worth it. Having ad-free site where we can just play and learn together, this is something very rare in the internet these days, and this is coming from a corporate man who works in the marketing department as a developer. If there's anybody that's more of a shill than me, I mean, I'm the shilliest, so trust me when I say that. So yeah, that's Lichess. And finally, let me end this by saying thank you to the wonderful music creators. If you've enjoyed any of the music that's been on tonight, all of this has been royalty-free music provided by wonderful composers, wonderful contemporary composers, and they deserve a mention for, even with royalty-free music, generally just because it's royalty-free doesn't mean that it's free use for anybody. A lot of royalty stuff at least has to be bought once. but all of this music has been free use, and these composers just want to get their work out there so that they can potentially be hired or be used and shared and gain new fans. So I just want to list them off. Thank you, Johnny Easton. Thank you, Mattia Cupelli, Brian Lowe, Teknoaxe, Whitesand Music, and Gabriel Tosi. And I have their preferred websites as links in the description box. Definitely take a look at the songs, click through. I have the links to all of the songs I used. If you find anything you like, be sure to go to their channels and just tell them that you really like it. I think that's enough for there. Well, that's all the shilling I have for tonight. Thanks to everybody for watching, and yeah, I feel good. I feel good from practicing. It's been a lot of fun for me recently playing a lot of games, but there's something to be said about practicing tactics on your own, deeply analyzing the board and positions, and getting reacquainted with the basics. Oftentimes, if you feel like you're losing motivation, or if you're starting to get ladder anxiety from playing, or you start feeling like your game's getting lost, the best advice I have for you is to kind of do what I did tonight. Just go back to the most easiest exercises, go back to your basic steps and process for how you play, and just iterate through the process. Because once you do that a couple of times, you'll start feeling it again. You'll start understanding why you enjoy the game so much. I guess that's enough. That's enough speeches for tonight. Good night, guys.